Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's the Short Sports Show. I'm your host, Daniel Short. Today's episode, we're going to talk about why the NFL is making really bad decisions right now, having 3 games going to London next year. Brett Farve possibly coming back. We'll have to see. Also, what to watch for this weekend, both college football and the NFL. College basketball also starts tonight with 137 games to watch tonight. So, trust me, if you have time, you're going to have a lot of things to watch tonight. But also, Cam Newton and the Panthers proving some people wrong, including myself. But can they continue the success that they're having this season? Also, Nick Saban worrying about fans staying for the games after they've been blowing out a few teams. But what he really should be focusing on and worrying about is Alabama fans ruining football traditions. We'll talk about that a little bit later. And also next week we have a touching story on how a Little League football player decides to give his jersey to a friend for a very special reason. And it's a very good story. I'm going to leave it on for next week's show, so make sure you stay tuned for that. But we'll go ahead and get on to it with the college football news this weekend. Nebraska quarterback Taylor Martinez is game time decision versus Minnesota. He's missed 3 games due to a turf toe injury. But Tommy Armstrong has been an okay fill-in for him. He did have a bad game against Purdue where he did throw 3 interceptions and had a very bad pass completion. But since then, he's turned it around, has done a very good job throwing for 347 yards and 3 touchdowns so far. So, whichever quarterback they decide to go to, I think they'll have, pretty good success with, and I hope the best for Tommy Armstrong. Hopefully he does get the start. Maryland is one beat-up college football team. Now I'm scrolling through, trying to look for some stories, what's going on. And I see Maryland, and they have 25 players on their injury report, including their starting quarterback, C.J. Brown, who will be out against Clemson. Now, last week, Clemson lost to Florida State in a very embarrassing fashion. It was funny because I was watching the game, seeing them, showing their tradition of getting on the bus to get on top of the hill and then, touching the rock and going down the hill and whatnot. And, there's all this hype, the fumble-rooski everybody's talking about and showing on College Game Day. And Clemson has a chance, if they beat Florida State, to move up to possibly be number 2 right now in the nation. And thinking about them playing Alabama in the national championship. Have all this hype, and then they get absolutely dominated against Florida State. And it's just a very, very bad game. Final score is 51-14. They'll be playing Maryland, and Maryland is a team that had a lot of hype when they were, I think they were about 5-0 or so, or they played Florida State. They got beat up by them and then lost another game to another team that was pretty bad, I think. And Maryland, I feel bad for them because Clemson is upset. Just about what I just talked about, losing to Florida State in very embarrassing fashion, and knowing that their national championship hopes are gone. They're absolutely gone. So now it's like, okay, Maryland, you have a beat-up team already, and you're about to play a team that has just lost basically everything, and it's just playing for a BCS bowl game now, which is still good, but when you had a national championship hopes right there, and then get embarrassed on TV just like that. So I feel bad for Maryland. Maryland does play Clemson at home, so that could be an okay thing. At least you have some fan support or something. But they do just need 1 game to be bowl eligible for Maryland. They won't get it this week though, that's for sure. So I was talking about Nick Saban. And, there's been rumors going on throughout the season that he would go and go to Texas and sign that $10 million contract that Texas is willing to offer and all this stuff, which I disagree that he'll go there. And there's also been another rumor that his wife was looking at houses in Austin, Texas, which I'm not going to say that's wrong, that's wrong because I really don't know. If that happened, but I still just don't see him leaving Alabama, whether they win a national championship this year or don't. I don't see him leaving Alabama. But a few things have gone on. Now, about a few years ago, was it 2010? Whenever Cam Newton was at Auburn, one of the fans for Alabama poisoned Toomer's corner, something like that. I think it's right. I don't know too much about Auburn, but an Alabama fan poisoned the tree. That's where they throw toilet paper all over the place and celebrate wins. Apparently that's what you do in Alabama, in Auburn. I guess that's how you celebrate wins. Anyways, he poisoned the tree and later confessed on a radio station that he did, and then he was saying he was just mad, he didn't really do it, then gets arrested. Anyways, goes to jail, blah, blah, blah. So that's already a bad experience for one. That guy just ruined a huge tradition in college football for Auburn. That's a huge thing for them, and the tree's gone now. So now, apparently some Alabama fans went to Tennessee and I guess Tennessee also has a rock, and put some red paint over a crimson paint and put Alabama is number one, Tennessee sucks, or FU Tennessee, something like that. And Nick Saban came out this week and didn't even address that, and said that he is mad at the fact that fans are leaving home games because they're blowing out teams. And it's just like, okay, well, I mean, what do you expect? You're playing, some of the games they've been playing that they're non-conference games have been, just really weak teams, which, it's usually what big teams do. They'll play the really weak teams and just to get some easy wins. So you can't really be mad that your fans are leaving when the game's 52-0 in the middle of the third quarter. What else is there to watch? I mean, if it's not a competitive game and it's not against the team that you really care for, you might as well leave. You don't deal with traffic. You could actually move on, do other things, watch other games, all sorts of things. I don't know what there is really to do in Alabama, but I'm just saying, he's mad about the fact that fans are leaving games early. I don't think that's a huge thing when you should be telling your fans that really they're doing something stupid and ruining college football traditions. And it's embarrassing. If I was an Alabama fan, I'd be really embarrassed, and I'd be like, what are we doing as fans? We're having these crazy dumb people go out and just trash places and do stupid things. I mean, that's whether you lose to that team or you beat that team, you never should just go out and just ruin some huge tradition like that. And Nick Saban should really address it, because he is the face of Alabama. He is what, other than Bear Bryant, he's what got Alabama going again. And he's what brought them back to the, being the top team. Without Nick Saban, you're probably looking at a team that's, an average SEC team, maybe above average SEC team. Because people sometimes forget that, they kind of sucked before, and they weren't that good. They were kind of like kind of what Tennessee's going through. Tennessee used to be really good, and now they're kind of struggling right now because other teams are getting better. They used to be like that. But when Nick Saban came back, that's when everything got better, recruiting. And Nick Saban should really come out and address this, saying, what are we doing? This is not this is not what Alabama does. It's not what we stand for. Take a stand and say something, because those people will probably actually listen to him and just, because they'll idolize him. So they'll just be like, oh, okay, yeah, we shouldn't do this. This is dumb. What are we doing? Just things like that. If he came out and said something, instead of worrying about fans leaving for games, and said, hey, stop being stupid and just be an Alabama fan, support us, but don't do anything stupid where you're messing up other things and other people's universities and stuff like that. So that was just my little bit of rant, but just had to get that out there when I saw that. I think it was very, I don't know, they shouldn't even just be fans. It's just stupid what they were doing. Other SEC news, SEC will look into the targeting penalties this offseason. There has been 52 targeting penalties called in the FBS, which is surprisingly down. That sounds like, when I saw that, I was like, wow, that's a lot, But apparently that is down from last year. 14 of those 52 calls have been in the SEC, and 6 of those 14 calls, because when there's a targeting penalty, that player is ejected. They can review it. They can't take away the penalty, but they can overturn the ejection. And 6 of those 14 were overturned. And basically what I gathered from the story was that, the players are learning how to, I guess, play flag football, because you can't really hit in football anymore, both college football and the NFL. But they're learning, I guess, the safer way to tackle, having their head up and wrapping up and not going for these big truck hits to make the sports center plays and whatnot. But it seems like they are looking maybe to like decrease the penalty, I guess. In other words, maybe not make a 15-yard penalty, or maybe not have the ejection in there unless it's clear. Because and also when I was reading that they're trying to make sure it's clear targeting, that the player, when they throw the flag, that it was clear helmet to helmet or something like that, that they don't want the refs guessing that maybe, because having it overturned makes it look bad, I guess. So I'm sure all the conferences are going to look into it. I don't think it's just the SEC. I think it's the entire college football, both FBS, FCS, and all those other Division 2 to Division 3 schools are going to look at this to make sure that, refs aren't guessing, that it's not, overturned, and, teams aren't giving up. Because they mainly made a big story about it is because it happened against Georgia and Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt had a fourth and long, and Georgia stops them, but there's a targeting penalty, and so that it's automatically a 15-yard penalty. Once that flag is thrown for that, there's no overturning the call that, they take away the 15 yards like there is, in other penalties. They're not taking it away, but they can overturn the ejection, blah, blah, blah. So Vanderbilt, after they get, the pass was incomplete on 4th and long. I'm trying to make this not confusing. I'm trying to make sure I'm saying this right. It's 4th and long, pass is incomplete, so it's overturned. Let me try to make sure I'm saying this right. Georgia then gets the ball because, it was a failed 4th down, so Georgia gets the ball. But because of the penalty, it's a 15-yard gain, so automatic first down, and Vanderbilt later wins the game. Has a rally and then wins the game later on. So that could have, stopped momentum swinging to Vanderbilt's side and having Georgia win the game. I'm not saying it cost them the game, because Georgia should have made plays later on in the game to stop them from that happening. But yeah, okay. I hope that made sense. You're gonna look into it to make sure the penalty is absolutely correct and all that other good stuff. What to watch for this week in college football? We got some good games. There's not a whole lot of games to actually, I usually just say about 5 games. And it looks like this week there's basically just 5 games to watch, because it doesn't look like there's a whole lot of non-ranked teams that are actually worth watching. Other than the Texas TCU game, which is on Saturday at 4:30 Pacific time. I gotta watch about an hour of it before I have to go to work. So if you guys make sure you guys follow this show, that way I can make this into my job, and I can just watch sports and do my job here. Anyways, first game, what to watch for. Number 12, UCLA is on the road at number 3, Oregon. And UCLA is probably going to exploit Oregon's defense, because Oregon really hasn't played anybody that tough, other than, I guess, Tennessee. Oregon really hasn't played anybody that tough, so especially with the running quarterback, I think UCLA is going to exploit some of the things that Oregon can't do on defense, and it's going to have to make Oregon, think a little bit too much on defense, where they make mistakes on their own. I don't see UCLA winning the game, but I think later on, especially Stanford, when Oregon has to play Stanford's going to be like, oh, okay, we see what's a little off. And remember, Stanford's already beat Oregon the past, 2 years now? So it's going to be a good game to watch. But I do see Oregon getting the victory, 42-28. I think Oregon's offense is just way too much for UCLA, which UCLA has a pretty good defense, but I do see Oregon winning. Second game of what to watch for, number 21, South Carolina at number 7, Missouri. And who would have thought, going into week 8, week 9 that we're at right now, we would see Missouri being undefeated and ranked in the top 10. I guarantee if you would have asked me that week 1 or preseason of college football, I would have said there's absolutely no chance that would happen. Good thing I didn't bet any money. Final score, I see Missouri escaping the win, 20-17. James Franklin will not play, which the backup quarterback for Missouri did a pretty solid job again last week. So I think it's going to be a little bit tougher test going against South Carolina's defense. Does Jadeveon Clowney actually actually have a really good game? I don't know. The offensive line for Missouri is okay, but it seems like Jadeveon Clowney's hype just was too much, and he just fell down or just didn't work in the offseason or something, because he does not look like the same player. I don't even think he's a first-round draft pick, but I think I said that a few weeks ago, and we'll talk about that more once the draft does get closer. Number 3 game, what to watch for, is Penn State Nittany Lions. Penn State Nittany Lions on the road at number 4, Ohio State. I am seeing Penn State, or actually no, I am hoping Penn State gets the victory. Do they? Probably not. But again, I'm going to go for my Penn State Nittany Lions. 30-28 final score. 4th game, North Carolina State at number 2, now number 2, Florida State University. And the reason to watch that is because last year North Carolina State upset EJ Manuel and the Florida State, who were top ranked at that time as well. I think they were number 5 in the nation or so, and did beat them. But this year, I think it's a little bit differently. Florida State gets a victory, 35-17. And the last game, what to watch for, is number 6 Stanford on the road at number 25 Oregon State. I think Stanford's just too much. Even though they are on the road, I think Stanford is still trying to make a push up there for the BCS rankings, get in the top 5, and just hope that whenever they play Oregon, they can, knock them down, and maybe a one-loss Stanford team does get into BCS National Championship talks, depending on what Alabama does and what Florida State does later this year. And I think Florida State plays against Miami next week, so that could be an interesting game. But I do see Stanford getting the victory, 35-17. And tonight, Boise State at BYU, which could be a really good game. BYU had a real good game against Houston last week. I think it was like 45-41 was the final score, something like that. Very high scoring game. This could be I'm not going to say it's both teams will score 40, but I do see both teams going in that low to mid 30 range. So tonight, 5 o'clock Pacific time. Make sure you watch that on ESPN. Going on to the NFL. NFL is ending their helmet deal with Riddle. It's Riddle. Yeah, I got it. Ending the deal with Riddle after this season doesn't mean none of the players can wear those helmets. It just means that won't be the official sponsor for the NFL. So I don't think there's going to be any drop off. I think Riddle is making a whole lot of good helmets. So I do think they will continue to make players will continue to wear that helmet no matter who the next deal is with the NFL. And the biggest news of the NFL this week, I think a lot of people wanted to hear, was about Brett Farve. So I get home and my dad tells me, I thought this was, I thought I was dreaming. I thought, this was just a joke or something. But he tells me Rams called Brett Favre's agent to see if he would come back and play for them this season. Now, why Jeff Fisher? Jeff Fisher is a great coach, no doubt about it. I have a whole lot of respect for him, and he was, when I first got into football, I did like the Titans, because when I got into football, I bought a DVD on the Titans, and I really liked, watching it. It had Steve McNair, Keith Bullock, a whole lot of good people, Eddie George, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, why he decided to go out of any quarterbacks that are free agents right now, or even, I think you can still make a trade right now. Why in the world would you decide Brett Favre is the guy to go to? Like, Vince Young, Tebow. I'd probably go with Tebow. No, I definitely would go with Timothy the Tebow with before I even think about Brett Favre. Brett Favre is just Is last year, I think they said his stats when he was with the Minnesota Vikings, he threw 11 touchdowns and 19 interceptions. Why in the world would you, and that was 3 years ago, why in the world would you want to get him as your starting quarterback? And I saw a funny picture that my cousin put up, and it was showing, the first picture was Jeff Fisher saying, "Hey Brett, we need you. Bradford's out for the year with the torn ACL. We need you." And Brett Favre comes back, I haven't unretired in a while. Who y'all play next week? And then it shows a picture of the Legion of Boom for the Seattle Seahawks, Richard Sherman, Cam Chancellor, Brandon Browner, Earl Thomas, and shows those four. No caption or anything, just shows them. And then Brett Favre says, "You know what? I think I'm just going to stay home." I don't know. I thought that was really funny. And, so Rams did sign Brady Quinn and brought back Austin Davis. I thought Austin Davis was a wide receiver. Apparently not. But yeah, I'd love to see Timothy Tebow be the quarterback for the Rams this year. I think that would be pretty interesting. Not saying it still can't happen. They could still go sign him, after this week, because they're going to play the Seattle Seahawks and they're going to get absolutely blown out. This would have been a really good Monday Night Football game if Bradford was playing. I think it would have been a very close game that people don't think it would have been. But with Kellen Clemens being the starting quarterback, or even if you went with Brady Quinn or Austin Davis, no matter any of those three quarterbacks, whoever starts that game, is going to be a very, very bad game for the Rams. So, especially with no running game, and Tavon Austin really hasn't made those plays that we've been wanting to see, like he made at West Virginia. So Richard Sherman did have a quote, and I thought I liked it. I liked what he said about possibly if he could have played against Brett Favre. This is what he said. He said, quote, "It would have been so cool just to say I did it. I would have loved that opportunity," and it, unquote. And then if he said, if he did get an interception against Brett Favre, he said, quote, that football would have been on a mantle, unquote. And I don't know. Richard Sherman, that would have been really cool to see him play against Brett Favre. Now, I am tired of hearing about Brett Favre, especially when he retired from Green Bay, then unretired to go back to the Jets, then he retired and then unretired or came back and played with the Vikings and blah, blah, blah. It was very annoying at that time, and it still is just to talk about it. But I kind of would like to see him play with the Rams, and just to see what he can. Just imagine, just every time he's running, dust is coming out of his cleats or something, So I don't know. That's pretty funny. But Timothy Tebow go with the Rams. That'd be cool to see. There will be 3 games in London next year. And this is what I was talking about, the NFL making some very, very dumb decisions. I don't understand the point of going out of the United States. Now, if you go play in Canada, even though I know there's a CFL, I think it'd be kind of cool, like if you played in Vancouver, even though it's already near Seattle, so it's basically looks the same. But I just don't see the point. And, they're so worried, fans are not going to preseason games. I did see this comment saying, why don't they make these games in the preseason? That way, one half of those players that won't even be on the team, they're going to do something enjoying, preseason. It makes preseason probably the ratings go up a little bit higher because it's somewhere else. But in the regular season, the fan was saying you're punishing the home team because they only get to see 7 games instead of 8, which, and it's not a huge drop off, but still, not to have that. It should be in the preseason instead of the regular season, or just not have it at all. My opinion is don't have it at all. I don't see the point of it. It's dumb, especially when the Jacksonville Jaguars keep going there. If they can't sell tickets on their own, I guess that's a reason to go off, to London. But no, just don't. No more games. So the 3 games that are going to happen are the Dallas Cowboys it's not at Jacksonville, but Jacksonville is going to be the home team. It's Dallas Cowboys versus the Jaguars, Lions against the Falcons, and then the Dolphins at the Raiders versus the Raiders. All 3 games in London, different times, different weeks. Stupid, just dumb for that to happen. The Panthers played last night against the winless Buccaneers and kept them winless. Cam Newton was pretty solid. Went 23 for 32, 221 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Final score was 31-13. But did you really expect Buccaneers to win? Now, as a San Diego Charger fan, I wonder if Vincent Jackson feels any better. Now, I know he got that huge contract. Oh, yeah, you made a whole lot of money. You're 0-7. San Diego's 4-3 right now. Not the greatest, but hey, you probably could have helped us win a few games. We might be 5-1, or 6-1, or something like that. We had you, but you decided to go take money instead, and now you're a loser and might have staph infection. Who knows? Your fault. Anyways, what to watch for this week? Redskins at the Broncos. A lot of games this week are really lopsided because of the records. Now teams are starting to clear up after a few weeks of playing now. Who's really good and who's not? You really see those teams starting to stand out. Now, like I was saying earlier in the year, how there's teams with records that weren't the same team. Now they're kind of standing out now. So Redskins at the Broncos. I do see the Broncos winning the game 38-20. Cowboys at the Lions. I think Cowboys offense a little bit better. Joseph Randle most likely will get more carries than DeMarco Murray this week. I'm hoping DeMarco Murray is able to come back and play effectively because I got him on my fantasy team. So need your help there, buddy. Cowboys, I see them getting the victory 35-28. Jets at the Bengals. Bengals win it 24-14. Dolphins at the Patriots. Should be a pretty good game. I think that's going to be a pretty solid game. I do see the Patriots winning 30-24. And then finally, the Bills at the Saints. Saints getting the victory 28-14 is my prediction. Major League Baseball news. Now, I am going for the Red Sox. That is my second favorite team. No, I'm not a bandwagoner. Dodgers are my first team. Now, we lost. Sucks. Got to move on. But Red Sox have been my second favorite team. Probably when Moneyball came out, the movie, because Billy Beane it was that ending scene where he was turned down that $11 million contract to be the general manager for the Red Sox, and I saw the weather and the stadium of the Red Sox. It made me just really like them. I don't know why, but that is my second favorite team. So it's not because they're in the World Series that they're my team, but I do hope the Red Sox win. They blew it last night. David Ortiz hits a home run, makes it 2-1 ball game going into the 6th or 7th inning. Really excited. Feel good. David Ortiz, that's his second home run in the World Series. Feeling good. And then things started to happen. Michael Wacha, I think that's his name, or Wacha, whatever his name is really good. I know he gave up, those 2 runs this game, but he is an absolute beast of a pitcher. And later on, the errors started to doom Boston. They had multiple errors, just bad plays. Oh, it was terrible to watch. Final score was 4-2. St. Louis did come back, and Carlos Beltran had an RBI. So, even though after being injured in game 1, hit running into a wall, coming back and getting an RBI, helping the team. And also, quick note, Matt Carpenter, he is the leadoff hitter for the St. Louis Cardinals, is I can't say fellow because I haven't graduated there, but is a TCU alumni. He did play at TCU for baseball. Jeez, come on, Daniel. So that's awesome to see that he went to TCU, went to the College World Series with us, and now is in the Major League World Series being the leadoff hitter. He's been that leadoff hitter since I think early this year, so congratulations to him. I hope the best for him. I hope he gets, a game-winning home run in Game 6 to force a Game 7, and then, sorry, but I got to go for my Red Sox to win it. Sorry about that, but Washington Nationals hire a new manager, Matt Williams. He was a 5-time All-Star third baseman. He did play at San Francisco, then Cleveland, and then at Arizona. And that's the end of the show, guys. Thank you guys for listening. Make sure you follow me on Spreaker.com and subscribe on YouTube. And follow me on Twitter at @short_sports 24-7 to keep up with other news and other things that I just do and talk about. But again, next week we got a good story. Make sure you guys watch that. It'll be next Monday at 10 o'clock Pacific time. So whatever time that may be for you guys, make sure you catch it on Spreaker.com. Thank you guys for listening, and I will see you guys next week. Deuces.